Am I the asshole for being upset about not getting a wheelchair? I suffer from myalgic encephalomyelitis. I started having falls several times a week and had to get a cane. My condition has become worse, and I come close to falling despite my cane. I wanted to get a wheelchair, so we checked out a place today. I found one and tried it. I felt immediate relief. It's easier to use than I expected, and was the most comfortable I've been in months. My boyfriend said that we couldn't get it now. We could get it next weekend when he cashed his tax rebate. I was confused because we have £1,200 in savings from my final wage after I was dismissed due to my disability, and it's not vanishing before then. He said he was worried about losing his job. He's taken a lot of time away from work. Quite often, this happens when I'm too ill to walk with him to work. He has anxiety about going in, and me walking with him helps. I told him I'm struggling to walk him to work, so how is he going to get to work? I also told him that I can't work without a wheelchair, which I've told him before, but he dismisses. He called his mother for advice, as she's a nurse. He came back from the call, said she didn't recommend it because they have £50 on the Red Cross website and can get them on the NHS. I broke down in tears, mainly over the last comment because my partner knows that I was refused twice by the NHS for a walking cane, despite having several falls every week. My cane was donated to me by a Redditor. I agreed to just go home because it was clear that he didn't want us to buy it. We waited for a lift from his mother, and I browsed the Red Cross website. The cheapest wheelchair they have is about £170, and it requires someone else to push it. The cheapest self-propelled one is £245, but the one I wanted was £150. In the car ride, I said that I couldn't live like this anymore. His mother said that the Red Cross had them cheaper. I told her what the prices actually were. She told me I could get them through the hospital. I told her how they refused me a walking cane, so how does she think they'll provide me a wheelchair? She says there is other help out there, and when I asked what help, she couldn't answer. I asked how they expect me to get to my interviews in the next few weeks and work when I can barely get out of the house, and she told me that I can't do anything about that. They are of the same opinion that it's too expensive, and it makes me think that I'm overreacting. I'm not good with money, so maybe they're right. I think maybe I wasn't as thoughtful as I should have been about how my partner feels about spending so much money. I immediately broke into tears before even reminding him I was refused a walking cane, or before checking the Red Cross website. He also does quite a bit for me. He often bathes me when I'm too weak to do it myself, and he lost his previous job after he had a lot of time off to look after me because I got so bad that I couldn't even safely walk from one room to another. And now in the comments, no, not the arsehole. You were not asking for a new expensive outfit, you were asking for a wheelchair. And quite frankly, this is a need, not a want, and you shouldn't even have to ask. And quite frankly, him taking a strop and being mad at you is complete bullcrap. Don't ask, buy it. I'm sorry to say this, but with ME, things are only likely to get worse. I have a friend who has been bedridden for over 20 years as a result of its progression. The sooner you get into a chair, the better, as overexerting yourself only accelerates the progression. I'm sorry, but support for the chronically ill and progressively disabled is terrible in most of the world. It sounds very much like the boyfriend and his mother are more interested in preserving the money to support him and not to support you. It is well and truly time that you have a serious conversation about what the plan is if you aren't mobile without assistance and need full-time care, because that is quite reasonably in your future, and if he's not on board with that, you need to know. Not the arsehole, look after yourself. You can't rely on anyone else to do it for you. Not the arsehole, just buy it, it is your money. Also, you didn't explain who he was at the beginning of your story. OP says, he is my boyfriend, we've been together for 7.5 years. I was trying to cut down the character count and forgot to adjust some details. Girl, your health and your comfort is the most important thing. I can't believe he and his mother do this to you. Get that damn wheelchair, and while you're at it, get rid of him if this is a reoccurring pattern with them. Seriously, I can't believe that someone that is supposed to love you cares more about $150 than your comfort and pain level and living status. With the wheelchair, you will be more active and have a more fulfilling life. That should be all that matters. Not the arsehole. Are you sure the money is still in the savings account? I would check. Good luck. OP replies, the savings account is in my name only, and he doesn't have access to it. We've always been really trusting with each other where money is concerned, so he never felt the need to be added to the account. It was an old one that I've had for years, and he trusted me enough to give me control to use it as a joint savings account. We had both put 50-50 in our actual joint account to cover the bills and rent, and then he would put in extra and ask me to transfer it into the savings. It's why I'm very hesitant to just flat out buy the chair, because I don't want to cause irreparable damage to that trust. OP, please read this. This is financial abuse. This is not shared savings, this is your savings. Your boyfriend and your boyfriend's mother are trying to move the goalposts to pressure you into not spending your money on a medical necessity. They are pressuring you not to spend your money so they can take your money and use it for themselves. Any boyfriend who would tell his disabled partner that they aren't allowed a medically necessary device that is needed for ambulatory movement is being abusive. It is abuse to even temporarily prevent someone with a disability from accessing mobility aids that will improve their quality of life. Look, I know that you have been with him for 7 years, but it is painfully clear that they are both influencing you to not look out for your own best interests. They are trying to prevent you from helping yourself and improving your quality of life so they can have access to your money for longer. That's not okay. That is not love. NHS guidelines on financial abuse state that financial abuse includes coercing you to spend, or not spend, money in a way that you are not happy with. This is exactly 100% what is happening here. Also, if your boyfriend has anxiety, that is not your problem. That is a him problem. If his anxiety is so bad that he needs you to put yourself in pain with him to help him walk to work, he is being abusive. His anxiety and emotions are not your responsibility. It is abuse for him to say or imply otherwise. He needs to go to the NHS and seek treatment and therapy for his anxiety. It is completely inappropriate for him to kidnap you into the role of being his emotional support animal, especially in light of the financial abuse. Please be well. I am worried for you. You seem to be in a worse situation than you realize. And now, on to the update. My partner talked with me this morning, and a lot has been cleared out. Turns out, I definitely was the asshole. I made assumptions about what they said and their intentions. His mother hadn't checked the website, she had seen them ages ago and didn't know they had changed, but I misunderstood their wording. When he said he was concerned about losing his job, he wasn't backpedaling. I just assumed. He didn't think that we were buying and felt ambushed. I thought I had told him. I suffer from brain fog pretty badly, so I'm forgetful. I thought he knew my interest, especially as I was willing to take what would be a painful walk for me. Again, I assumed. There were lots of comments that him and his mother are abusive, which tends to be a theme with comments on relationship posts on Am I the Arsehole? I want to address this here because I was overwhelmed by the number of comments and was struggling with my mental health. These two aren't abusers, and he was not stealing money from me. I'm the only one who has access to the savings account. It's an old one that we use jointly. His mother took us in a few years ago when he needed her help, and she has been extremely respectful of my aversion towards children. Even though she doesn't understand it, she looks past that because she works hard to make others feel comfortable. She has gone out of her way to get the only migraine tablets that work for me, despite working ridiculous hours, when I couldn't leave the house and my partner's hours meant the shops wouldn't be open. She was trying to help me find a cheaper option. I screwed up, and I thought she had lied, and I misrepresented her. My partner is my rock of 7.5 years. He has helped me get away from my relatives who abused me for 19 years. He has been supportive from the first day that I developed ME. He has been patient and taken on a lot of responsibility because what I'm able to do as a partner and around the house has diminished. He never forced me to walk with him. I would agree to because I wanted to support him. Posts here are only a snapshot of people's lives, especially when there's a character limit. Even before I realized that I'd made a mistake, I had to cut down what I wrote just to fit the character count. I really upset him, and he actually saw the original post and all the comments calling him an abuser. I didn't write those comments, but I might as well have because I posted about it without considering there may have been a misunderstanding on my part. I should have reached out to him. My head is a mess, and I mucked about last night with antidepressants, painkillers, and alcohol. Wasn't trying to take my life, just wanted to feel something else, something that wasn't heavy. I have contacted my doctor to get help with my mental health and to obtain a formal diagnosis because I think there's a lot more going on than just depression. He says we'll get the chair on the weekend. I hurt him a hell of a lot and he's still thinking of my health. Now in the comments, sweetie, I commented in your other thread, but I just read your post in Off My Chest. In addition to this post, where you were taking all the blame, reading your first Am I the Arsehole post, and your perspective on your Off My Chest post, I just want to cry for you. You are not the arsehole at all. He's stopped you from buying a medical device, but wants to buy gaming equipment and wants you to get a job. You said being in the chair was feeling like you were given wings, and he clipped them. You are not the arsehole. And OP replies, this is another thing that came out when we were talking properly. When I started showing him different wheelchairs that I liked and suggested the place we went to, and also when he could see how much I was struggling, he decided against buying new equipment. He wanted to pay for the chair out of the tax rebate instead, and then put the leftovers into the savings account and towards bills. I would be lying if I said I didn't find it strange that he wants to wait a week, but honestly, I'm more than happy to. Dealing with doctors and specialists has been a nightmare. I had a doctor laugh down the phone at me because I requested they do tests other than just blood tests. I dread to think what their reaction would be to requesting wheelchair services. OP, this is not a good situation for you. Hard no. Yes, you are being abused, you are being gaslit, please run from these people. The fault wasn't solely yours, so please don't believe it is. There seems to be communication issues all around there, and if your boyfriend and his mother don't communicate things to you properly, you can't possibly understand their viewpoint and why certain things are or aren't happening. Lovely to see that you'll be getting your chair, much needed by the sounds of it, and I hope it improves your life hugely. Info. OP, have you applied for PIP or the ESA type part of the Universal Credit? And OP replies, it has been an issue for me for years that I don't always understand what others are getting at, not just with him and his mother. There has been times when someone will talk to me, and it's like hearing radio static. It's another reason I'm going to the doctors. I want to see if I have some kind of underlying issue. Autism and auditory processing disorder has been suggested to me before. I'll just have to see what happens, and if there is something going on, then I can seek out help and maybe treatment. I have applied for PIP. I've heard it takes a few months for the forms to be processed, and I've seen a lot of people with ME apply and not have much luck. I have sent off my explanation of how my disability impacts my life, so it's a big weight off my shoulders knowing that they have that, and I'll have to keep my fingers crossed. What's ESA? I can't say that I've heard of it before. Ironically, we did apply for Universal Credit when I lost my job, but it was the following day that he got offered his current one. And I guess just to answer that question, ESA is a benefit for people that can't work due to their health. So yeah, one of those things with the UK health system. Am I the arsehole for kicking my sister out of my family gathering after a comment about my adopted son? Some feel that I, 32 male, should have handled the situation, but I don't see how I'm wrong. Me and my sister, 37 female, are not as close as we used to be because of some messed up stuff that happened years ago. I had my son Jesse, 9 years old, pretty young. Months after that, to my surprise, my ex was pregnant again. Only I knew that it wasn't me because having an infant to take care of and provide for left me with zero interest in sex, and we found out it was my sister's fiancé, ex now, that she was seeing behind our backs. It hurt. Worst pain ever. But for my son's sake, I tried to get past it. I come from a family of half-sibs too, so I wanted my son to be close to his half-brother, Keith. Surprise, not only were they, my ex and my sister's ex, horrible lying cheaters, but also terrible parents. Both got hooked on drugs, and it only escalated from there. He got locked up when Keith was 3. This particular issue with my sister happened a couple of years ago. My ex got sick, and she was scared of Keith ending up in foster care, like her and I didn't want that for him either. I legally adopted him before she passed when he was 6 years old. Not everyone in my family was on board at first, but he's the kind of kid that's hard not to love, so they warmed up to him. My sister never did. She hated that I brought the son of my ex-fiancé into my family, and I understood why it was painful. But Keith's and Jesse's best interests were my main priority. That is how we drifted apart. Last weekend was my birthday, and I had a small barbecue at my place. My parents have tried hard to mend things between us, so they convinced me to let her come too so we can chat. I thought that meant that she was cool with Keith because obviously the 3 of us are a package deal. I asked my parents how would she feel about Keith. They said not to worry about it. Again, I took it as she came around. Only she wasn't told that he would also be present. But how could he not be? He lives there. My sister got there and she was mad when she saw him. She very specifically said, "I thought this was family only. What's he doing here?" Loud enough where he could have easily heard, but thankfully he was playing with his brother. My sister was pissed because my parents told her Keith wouldn't be around, and I got pissed when she told me she didn't want him here, expecting me to do something about it. So I just told her to leave, and she's not welcome here then. There was some back and forth from her and my parents, and I didn't want that kind of talk around my sons, so I still made her leave. My mum seems to think I was a huge asshole for kicking her out of my party instead of trying to work things out. Like, they take Keith somewhere out of sight while me and her talk, but to me, what's the point of us working it out if that's how she still feels towards my son? Well, this is still causing some conflict since I escalated the feud by making her leave instead of actually talking to her. Am I the asshole? Alright, we'll give a Markee opinion. I think the sister is the one that escalated the situation here. I don't get why it's still causing some conflict. I don't see how it's escalation when she refuses to talk. It feels like this was the only option you had left. This was the last resort. I don't think she should be allowed to give that toxic energy to your adopted son, regardless of the circumstances of how he came into your life. Like, you know how she's going to act if she continues to stay there. You say in the explanation down below that you made the situation worse by kicking her out instead of compromising for her and talking things out. I can't comprehend any better way to protect this child than to get rid of her at this point. And if that makes you an asshole in hers and the parents' eyes, like, good. It protects the child. They're the most important one in this story at the end of the day. Father is in jail, mum's dead since the age of 6. Like, what support does this kid have in his life? It is no way to be treating this kid. My heart breaks for Keith, for this child. This behavior from your sister, quite frankly, is worthy of you cutting her out of your life entirely, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one. Your parents and your sister both suck massively. Now in the comments, not the asshole. Regardless of what happened in the past between consenting adults, Keith is a child and is absolutely innocent. Bless you, OP, for having such a huge heart and opening up your home to another son. You rock. Who wants to bet that poor kid heard but pretended not to? Yeah, little ears hear everything. When my son was 1, we bought a new AC unit, and I mentioned in passing to my in-laws that we used the vacation money for it. Weeks later, I was looking at pictures of my son's daycare playgroup with him, and he points at one of his friends, Abby. I said, yes, Abby's on vacation this week. That's why she's not at daycare. He looked at me, pointed at the AC, and said, vacation. They hear and remember everything, even more when it's something hurtful. So, let me get this straight. Essentially, the same exact thing happens to both you and your sister, you were both cheated on, and you do a remarkably decent thing and adopt the child that resulted from it, yet she can't even be in the same room as said child. Why does she think her pain from said incident is so much more traumatic than yours? Does she even realize, comparatively speaking, what a petty little human she must be? Dude, you are so not the asshole, and kudos for being a generally good human. We need more people like you in the world today. And OP replies, I don't know how people handle this stuff different, I guess. For me, I had my son to think about, and that I didn't want him growing up without knowing his other brother. Therapy was a huge help, and I wish that she'd believe in that kind of thing, or at least give it a try. She has chosen to handle it like a brat and to punish a child. Keith is old enough for her to have plenty of time to process her loss, and also, Keith lost his mum and bio-dad as a child. She lost a shitty fiancé as an adult. It's really pathetic that she doesn't have a sense of perspective here. You do not take crap out on kids. They are innocent. You give them the best and you are kind to them, period. You have a good heart. Trust your instincts and enjoy your babies. Lord knows they grow up too fast for you to waste time on anyone who doesn't love them and support you as a parent. And now onto the update. Okay, I actually wasn't going to add anything, but figured since conflict is somewhat resolved, why not? This issue was mostly on my parents, and I decided to contact my sister to discuss what to do with them. It was a very tense conversation. Really, really tense. She was still very mad at me. Lots of resentment, obviously. I was angry at her for her reaction at my party, but at least we managed to remain civil and kept the topic solely on our parents to make sure they don't try to pull something like this again. We agreed neither of us will be in each other's lives, her issues are with Keith, and me not wanting to exclude him as he's a big part of my life, and agreed that we both needed to speak to them together to get that point across. When we met up with them, we told them they're going to have to accept that this is how it's going to be. Do holidays and celebrations like we have done them before, separate, one of us not attending, or showing up after the other has left. And they are not allowed to push us into talking, ambush us the way they did again, or that'll result in losing us both permanently. In the end, they seem to have got it. At least they apologized and that was that. My sister and I went our separate ways. Does it absolutely suck? Yes, but that is where life has taken us. At least now, none of us have to worry too much if we're going to get tricked into a meeting again. At least I hope not. Oh, and one thing I wanted to address, my son. I did see a few comments concerned if Keith heard what she said or not, or maybe he pretended not to. And I kinda hoped that he just didn't care since I didn't see a reaction, but thanks for pointing that out. In case he did, I didn't want him internalizing that. Unfortunately, yes, he did hear. We had a whole conversation about several nights ago, alone. He didn't want to admit at first he heard her, but you can tell from kids. These heavy things never get easy explaining to a kid. Best I could say was she was just angry, and angry people sometimes say mean things for no reasons. But no matter what, he's family. He knows he's my boy, and I love him and his brother too. And I'm glad he knows that, and I'm glad people brought it to my attention. I'm glad to have gotten Reddit's support and wisdom. I appreciate it so much. Not a perfect ending where everyone got along, but at least boundaries have been drawn and less chances of this happening again. And that's the end of that post. I'm going to read some comments. I'm glad you were able to have an in-depth discussion with your son. Definitely keep your boundaries up and watch for any self-hate talk / I don't belong with you talk, just in case. The way you handled your parents with your sister was kind of amazing. Choose to deal with this topic / your parents' behavior, tricking both of you, and then stay away from me. OP says to that, I think it needed to be done this way so that they both know that we are serious, as hard as it was to have to talk this out without it resulting in other arguments. I just wanted to say that I think that you've handled everything that has been thrown at you with remarkable grace and aplomb? I don't know what that is. Your sons are both extremely lucky to have you as a father. I wish the three of you a very happy and healthy life. Oh, that's a word, aplomb, self-confidence or assurance, especially when in a demanding situation. Your kids are very lucky to have a mature, compassionate father like you. I'm sorry you're going through this, but just know that your kids will thank you someday for having their back and loving them unconditionally. OP replies, nothing I haven't accepted already, so it's fine. My boys bring so much into my life and I'll never regret that. It goes by fast, OP. Hold on to the present as much as possible because one day you'll wake up and your boys will be grown-ass adults calling to make sure you are doing okay instead of the other way around. It's a wild, wonderful life. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to talk with my mother? I, 21 female, love my long hair. It's because when I was little, my mother, 54 female, used to take me to the hairdressers and make them cut my hair really short. When I was a teen, I started not to go to hairdressers with my mother, so I had long hair. 3 days ago, it changed. Because of COVID, I wasn't able to go to my own hairdresser because their place is a little far from my home. My hair started to get split ends, and it was going below my butt. My mother was going to cut her hair, as she loves short hair. She asked me to join her, but at first I said no because I didn't trust her. I thought she would pull the same trick like when I was little, telling people to cut my hair shorter. She insisted and said that she wouldn't do anything, and it's not her business anyway. So I said okay, and she had an appointment for me too. We went there, and 2 employees were doing my hair because it was too long. I constantly let them know that when my hair is cut short, I fell into a bad place psychologically. They said okay, we won't cut it short. One of the girls pressed the comb to my waist and told me, I'm gonna cut it from here, okay? And I said yes, because waist is a good length for me. She then cut it from above, but I thought that it was her hand or something. When the cutting was done, they showed me my hair, and it was like a hand below my shoulders. I can't reach my hair from back without pushing my arms. I was devastated, but I couldn't say anything because they spent such a long time doing it. Apparently I'm a doormat. When we went home, I started crying. It didn't stop. I still cry when I look at the mirror, when I touch my hair. I said that I'm gonna make a complaint about the hairdresser, and my mum said, I told them to cut it that short. It's better now. You should thank me. And when I heard this, I was angry with her, with the hairdresser who didn't listen to me, an adult, and my wishes about my hair. And I was angry with myself too for trusting my mother. I still made a complaint, my brother and my father agree with this, and my father said, I'm on your side on this, and I will help you with the case if anything comes up. However, I am not talking with my mother. I refuse to call her mother, and I clearly say that she's dead to me. I refer to her as my brother's mother or my father's wife. My brother is okay with it, but my father says even though I'm right, I shouldn't do this because she is my mother after all. I am so angry with her, but also when I remember the times that she forgave me for my mistakes, I feel bad for behaving badly towards her. My father insists that I should stop and says that my hair will grow again, so I shouldn't keep this up against my mother. Now in the comments, not the asshole. It is your hair, and what kind of salon gives someone a haircut based on what someone else asks for? It's a parent's job to forgive kids their mistakes. Kids make mistakes by nature, and parents are supposed to be there to guide them and help them to be better people. Your mom is too old to be making the mistake of stomping on her grown child's autonomy. You don't have to forgive this. And based on this ridiculous behavior, the hairdresser should have a nice new review warning others that they will listen to and do as others request when cutting an adult's hair. Your mum is the asshole, the hairdresser is the asshole, and it is true that your hair will grow back, but you shouldn't have been put in that position regardless. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your mum is overbearing and has no respect for your bodily autonomy or your personal boundaries. However, you are not going to get very far by telling her that she's dead to you and by calling her your father's wife. She will use it as a reason to victimize herself and showcase you as the ungrateful villain. Explain to her why it hurt you. Tell her how you felt disrespected and hurt and how that decision was yours to make. Ask her how would she feel if you shaved her head one day without consent. Try to get her to understand how and why it was so hurtful to you, and why you felt like it was a betrayal of your trust. Calling her names and cutting her off completely likely will only make things worse, especially if you're not in a situation to move out and become financially or otherwise independent. And OP replies to that, "Thank you for your comment, but she made fun of me when I was crying, and she told me that it's not a big deal. When I tried to tell her my heart aches because of this, like you said, she calls me ungrateful. She also calls my aunts to tell them this, so yeah, she's already victimizing herself and I'm constantly crying." Classic narcissist and emotionally abusive parent. I'm sorry you have to experience this, OP. Is it a reality for you to be able to get out and live on your own in the near future? And OP replies, "I'm going to go to uni and I will graduate next year. I have plans to get out of the country, so until then, I have no choice but death, literally." And now on to the update. Hi, after almost a month I came with an update. This month was rough. I was the rudest I've ever been to my mum. We were fighting every day and she didn't apologize. She's the type that won't say the words "I'm sorry," but rather does things like making me nice breakfasts, my favorite dinners, and buying me clothes, etc. But I decided that these gestures aren't it, and kept insisting on worded apology because I wanted her to acknowledge what she did to me with her actions. Just today, I got my apology. My brother was out with friends, and my father was also out for work. I said, "I just want an apology. It's simple. No one's here, so apologize to me, and it will be okay." She teared up and said, "I'm sorry." So I teared up and asked, "What are you sorry for?" And she said, "I'm sorry for upsetting you by making people cut your hair." Then I accepted her apology, we hugged and cried a little. We are fighting free into our next fight. After the crying session, she showed me some hair professional's Instagram account that gives long hair tips, etc. I believe she understands the situation better now. I still won't be going to a hair salon with her, but okay, smiley face. For people who are worried about my mental health and my strong connection to my hair, unfortunately I couldn't find a psychologist who meets my needs. We are still searching, but sorry for no good news about this aspect. Also, the complaint I made isn't finalized yet. The organization kept pushing the date because there was national holidays around this time, but I still call them almost every day. I am pretty sure the lady who answers the phone is pissed, but I'm determined. I will get my justice. My mum told me to drop the case because the hairdresser wasn't the owner. She was just an employee. My mum says, she's just working there, don't make her lose her income. And I said, well, I will be graduating next year, and when I start working and doing something wrong, people will report me. Things don't work like how it is in your mind. So there's that. I also wanted to thank you for your kind messages, suggestions, and support. I would have been sold on a dinner, but I remembered your comments and I stood my ground. I still ate the food though. I hope this update is good enough. Now in the comments, the hairdresser should also be held accountable. She refused to listen to the person whose hair she is doing, and instead listened to someone who went against your wishes. It was her job to cut the hair of the person she's cutting how they want, not to listen to anyone else about what style would be better. And maybe it'll drum into your mum's head that actions have consequences. She conspired with the hairdresser in regards to this mess. She got off easy. I would not have let her off until I could pick out mum's next haircut, and it would not be a nice one. Exactly. Next time mum thinks about recruiting some minions to do her bidding, she can think back to how she's helped this stylist lose her job. She said, "I'm sorry for upsetting you by making people cut your hair." That's not an apology. An apology would list her actions, acknowledged how it affected you in a sincere, caring manner. Something like, "I'm sorry I disregarded your wishes again and paid someone to deliberately violate your body autonomy." That is an apology. What she said was basically, "I'm sorry that you got upset because I decided that your wishes were less important than mine." Good luck, OP. She is gaslighting you. And OP replies to that, "I get a lot of comments like this. My mum accepted that it was her fault. She didn't say something like, 'I'm sorry that you are upset.' I especially asked, 'What are you sorry for?' to understand if she really knows that this is her fault. I agree that she kinda pushed the blame to the hairdresser, but still admitted that she was in the wrong for making me miserable for that first couple weeks. After my first post, I read a lot about narcissistic parents, and I talked with my friend who graduated from psychology about this. To be honest, I never expected her to apologize with all the information I got about narcissists. I also know that her apologizing when there was no one around is also sketchy, but it's the best I can get. Even though I kinda want to forgive her now, I will not forget this, of course. I know we will always have issues, but I also know I will not be in the same country with her in a couple of years. If things work out, that is. So this half apology is something I'm okay with, because it's like expecting a fish to fly. The best the fish can do is jump from the water to the surface and fall back into the water. Same as Mum. She half apologized, and it's still impressive because it's the max thing she can manage, unfortunately. I'm not saying this is okay, I probably do give her an easy pass, but being in fights 24/7 with an authority figure in your house is exhausting, and she was making my father's life miserable too. Am I the asshole for reading at home with my husband? I enjoy reading books, but my husband feels that it is rude for me to read when we are both home because I am ignoring him. To be clear, this does not happen in excess by anyone's definition. I have read a maximum of 5 entire books since we got together a decade ago, primarily to avoid upsetting him. We have very similar work schedules. Recently, I bought a book that was the first in a series of 3, and it started this argument to a higher degree than usual because of the fact that it is a series. I have considered going to a cafe and reading in my car, but that seems like a waste of gas when I could just read at home, where it's more comfortable anyway. But doing so requires that I tell him I'm about to start reading in the study, bedroom, etc., and that I expect not to be interrupted for the next 30 minutes to an hour, which is what I intend to do if the results here favor me. Though this will absolutely upset him, because he approaches me for comment or to tell stories every 10 to 15 minutes on average. So am I the asshole? And edit, wow, I got a ton of feedback. This'll take a while just to read, and I'm sure I can't respond to everything, so I will add a few things here. 1. He does the same thing with headphones, but aside from expecting me to be available for immediate comment, he is not abusive in any way. I have friends that I see regularly. I can choose to leave the house without question. I have full access to all financial accounts. I make semi-substantial financial choices. For example, a weekend getaway with friends or buying a new office desk without permission or guilt. This does not involve yelling, but there are guilt trips. They are framed just as what I have expressed here, that he feels ignored and it's rude. 2. He works totally alone, and I do think that is a source of his understandable need for lots of evening and weekend interaction. I just feel this request is an inappropriate expression of that need. 3. No, he doesn't have many friends. Just one, really. Otherwise, it's mostly just my family that he spends time with. His doesn't live nearby, but he gets along really well with mine, and they all genuinely enjoy each other's company. 4. Yes, we do have pets. 5. Yes, he has hobbies, but they're easy for him to pick up and to put down without notice. Lots of household projects, carpentry, etc. No, he does not like to watch sports or play video games. 6. We both already have therapists who we have seen bi-weekly for years. It's mainly been individual therapy, aside from approximately 6-month periods of couples therapy during a time of crisis in 2019. And 7, yes, he is able to read, but he has some mild insecurities about his intellectual abilities. Now in the comments, your husband sounds like a piece of work. Read when you want, no announcement needed. Put earbuds in and say they're for white noise. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Depriving you from doing something that you love is notably controlling and restrictive. Doesn't he have things which he likes to do by himself? If the answer is positive, that is an epitome of hypocrisy. Is there any chance that he's jealous of you, that you can read and comprehend books and also enjoy it? You have to find the roots of the problem. Tell him to tell you precisely what bothers him in your reading so you can solve this. You don't need to abstain from reading books. That is a wonderful habit and hobby. It's likely that he does this with anything she enjoys that isn't about or with him. My ex did this. Told me I was wasting my time, but had zero issue forcing me to watch him play PlayStation for hours on end. This is a massive ass red flag. Not the asshole. Holy potato. What is even wrong with your husband? Is he that insecure that he just won't let you have a few minutes to yourself? Is he that needy? Everyone needs me time. If he doesn't understand it and doesn't want to change, you may rethink that relationship. It's like he doesn't do anything by himself. My husband watches football all day on Sunday. I'll watch one game and I'm done. Guess what I do? Find something else to do. Get a mani-pedi, have a coffee with a friend, brunch, reading, binge watch Netflix by myself. So much I could possibly do, and it's a break for both of us. Something is seriously wrong with this guy. And now back to the post, we have the update. So after some of this input, I read for about 90 minutes in the bedroom last night. He was watching some TV, and he did ask, "You don't want to hang out with me?" I said he was welcome to put in headphones and come join me. He said nah, and continued to watch TV. It has me wondering if maybe he saw some of the responses to this thread because it was unusual. Nevertheless, it went well. I plan to make this part of my Sunday and Wednesday evening routine, until I can trust myself to be more casual about it without giving it up again. To 85% of you, thank you so much. To the other 15% of you, yikes? But such is the internet. What a neat resource. I would never have really known if this was the norm, or how other people read for pleasure in their private households without this tidal wave of input. Thanks for these small glimpses into your homes and lives. It's funny what parts of our routines are silently, unintentionally intimate. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for turning my stepmom and my dad into laughingstocks in front of the whole family?" Recently, my dad and stepmom Sarah decided to renew their vows since they both cheated on their partners, because they feel their wedding experience was ruined for them. They wanted a small get-together at their house to discuss some plans with the whole family. My wife, 25 female, and I, 30 male, informed them that we couldn't make it because my wife had to attend an engagement party with my mum, 52 female, but they insisted that my wife and my mum come directly to their house after their party. My wife is Indian, so she dressed up in her traditional attire and made my mum wear it too because she really wanted to wear a sari, and they both looked gorgeous. So when they arrived at the party, everyone, my dad's side of the family and Sarah's friends, were fawning over them. And if I'm not wrong, some of Sarah's male friends were hitting on my mum. We were just hanging around the living room area when I saw my twin sons, 4 male, starting a fight because when one of them has something, the other one gets jealous. So I ran to put a stop to them because they might break it, and when I went there, I saw Sarah and my dad just sitting on the sofa. So I asked them what happened, and they told me they feel the attention has been shifted from them. I knew they meant my wife and my mum, and while they were telling me this, my twins started fighting again. So I said, "Boys, if you don't stop getting jealous of each other like your grandfather and Sarah, I will put all 4 of you in time out." Some of my dad and Sarah's friends heard it and started laughing, and soon it became a laughing matter. It died down when they announced they were renewing their vows and everything, so the dinner went well, and we left. The next day, I get a call from both my dad and Sarah telling me how much of an asshole I was, and how I made them a laughingstock in front of everyone, so I told them that I wouldn't have done it if they hadn't acted like children. I have been getting texts from my brothers saying that I was an asshole for ruining their day. So Reddit, am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I feel I might be the asshole because I made everyone laugh at them during their special day. Now in the comments, info. Why did your dad want your mum there? That's the weirdest part of the story. And OP replies, my mum and dad are cordial with each other. They don't have any bad blood, or you could say my saint of a mum forgave him for cheating and holds no resentment towards him or Sarah. Honestly, with the way he's acting, she must have felt like she drew the get out of jail free card. Not the asshole. They had their day on their wedding, and they screwed that up. Why would they want your mother to come to their house to help her plan her ex-husband's vow renewal to his new wife? Good on your mum and wife for stealing the show. They should have accepted that your wife had a previous engagement. Your dad and his wife sound exhausting. Maybe they will stay mad long enough that you will be disinvited to the renewal. Not the asshole. You're an opportunist, not an asshole. Dad and Sarah are only mad because it's true. They'll get over it. Disregard and carry on, I say. And now on to the update. First, I would like to answer the question about why my mum was invited in the first place. My mum and my dad were good friends before they got together. They had me when they were both 20, and my mum was the primary breadwinner of the family, while my dad became a stay-at-home dad. Sarah, my stepmother, was actually our neighbor, and I was around 8 when the cheating happened. My mother and my father separated, and there was no bad blood between them, with my mum getting the majority of the custody. Both my parents have put the cheating behind them and are cordial with each other. Second, I would like to thank everyone for their input. I accept that I am the asshole in this situation. The joke was unnecessary and the timing was so bad. I thank the users who pointed out how my joke would make my 2 kids think that it's okay to disrespect their grandparents. I called my dad and stepmother Sarah and apologized to them for what I said, but I couldn't help but tell them that they should refrain from making bad comments about my mother, which they apologized for to both me, my wife, and my mum. I had a deeper talk with my dad, where he told me that he still feels guilty about cheating on my mum, and how he's jealous of how close I, my mum, and my wife are. He feels like he gets excluded from everything. I didn't realize how much I still resented my father. When my father cheated, I absolutely hated him because I saw him as a role model. I didn't realize what was happening until one of my cousins told me the truth. I told my dad that he was a bad husband to my mum, but he wasn't a bad father, and I thanked him for always being there for me and promised him that I would include him. I think the relationship between us is better now. My mum never remarried after my dad and is honestly living her best single life. She worked her ass off for years providing for me, and she is one of the strongest women in my life. She is an incredible human being, so I do not appreciate the messages telling me my mum is an attention seeker and didn't change her outfit deliberately when I've already explained why she couldn't change. I was late to update because we are having baby number 3, and it has been really emotional because the chances of us getting pregnant were really slim. Our twins were through IVF, so except for my parents and wife, you are all the first to know. Any indole advice on how to tell my 2 monkeys that they are going to be big brothers would be appreciated. Now, in the comments, glad it was not only resolved, but progressed your relationship. One of my twin friends always makes the joke that he was born 6 minutes earlier, and therefore has a vast amount more of worldly experience because of compounding interest. For only twin children, only twildren, if you will, I think it'll be fun going from having a sibling, but not being older and younger, to both getting to be the older brother. And OP replies, "It sounds effective." And from your previous post, make sure the 2 monkeys don't fight over the baby monkey, winky face. Congrats on the new one, and congrats on turning a bad situation into progress with your dad. For what it's worth, I thought it was an overreaction on your dad and stepmom's part. Laugh it off, everyone laughs, family annals. But then, special day, nerves frayed, also understandable. Couldn't even judge it back then. Congratulations on your new addition, but I do believe your dad and stepmom completely overreacted. Yeah, when I read the original all the way to the end, wondering when we were going to get the part where they did something all that bad, like throwing the cheating in their faces, no. Just them not liking that they weren't the center of attention, and the OP calling them out on it. And our next post is titled, "Would I be the asshole if I didn't give my dad my password after I turn 18? I'm 17 female, currently living with my dad and my 5 siblings, and a junior in high school. I love my dad and think he is super supportive. He's just very controlling at times. He tracks my phone, which I did used to despise but now understand and appreciate, and I believe he monitors my texts. Haven't confirmed it yet, but I strongly suspect it. I recently changed my email password 2 weeks ago due to a security breach, and the day after I did, my dad asks me what I changed my password to. My password has been the same for years, and I knew that he knew it, I just never knew that he checked my emails. I had to leave for work, so I just sort of dodged the question because it surprised and confused me. A week passes, and he texted me yesterday demanding I give him my password. Due to living in his house and not wanting to disrespect and argue with him, I gave him it. Now it has me wondering if he could get mad if I changed my email password when I turn 18 soon. I'm scared to ask, just wondering if it would be disrespectful and rude to do so, even though I'm going to be an adult and don't want my dad snooping through my emails. My emails aren't even interesting, they're for school most of the time. Now in the comments, not the asshole. And frankly, his behavior is bonkers to me, even when you are still underage. You're a person, and you're entitled to privacy. The next time you change your password, you have to draw a boundary about it and say, "Dad, I love you, but I'm a grown-up now, and I deserve privacy in my communications. It's not up for negotiation." Not the asshole. But if he's paying for your college or helping you with a major financial burden, just make a second and don't tell him for the email. My parents are controlling, and I'm 21 male in college. Just make it, don't ask, don't tell. And OP replies, "Yeah, he's helping me out with college, which I really appreciate, and this is probably what I'm going to do. Thank you." Just to clarify, your father helping you with school doesn't give him permission to invade your privacy, but he doesn't sound like the most reasonable person, so it's best not to anger him, as he may decide to stop paying for your school. So, only to avoid conflict and potential detriment to your future, consider getting a new email address, but allow him to keep reading the old one. It sucks that you have to do that, but your father's lack of boundaries hasn't given you much choice. Not the asshole. Honestly, I would recommend changing all of your passwords the moment you turn 18, getting a new phone and phone number, and getting the hell away from your father. Tracking your phone, reading your texts, reading your emails? That guy is so far beyond all boundaries that he is in the next solar system. OP replies, "I have an okay paying job for my age, and may consider this. Yet I feel it may hurt my dad emotionally a lot if he thinks that I can't trust him. That being said, I might do it and just not tell him though." OP, his behavior is controlling and highly inappropriate. You don't need to put his feelings first. And now on to the update. I first want to thank everyone who responded and helped me out 2 years ago. It really helped me to get to a better place mentally. I'm now 19 female, about to start my sophomore year of college, and about to move into an apartment. I spoke with my dad when I turned 18. Sat down and had a serious discussion with him about my boundaries and how as an adult, I have more freedoms and that he must respect that, and he listened. He made me feel my feelings were valid, and this last year, it seems that he's really changed. He isn't obsessed with my emails/checking where I am. Lamau, being an adult has helped with that. I talked with him as well as to not be as insane as he was with me with my younger siblings, and so far, nothing yet. He's admitted he's used manipulation and gaslighting as a way to parent. I was shocked to hear him admit that. Will I still be cautious? Of course. But overall, my dad and I have come to an understanding of boundaries, and I no longer live with the constant fear of being monitored. Thank you guys for everything, and yeah, I'm much happier and recently came out as pan, which my dad supports. And now in the comments, so glad it all worked out well. OP replies, "Thank you, me too." Yeah, your dad sucks for his actions before, but if you're okay and happy with your dad now, that is good to hear. It's so rare to hear about abusive parents actually admitting it and taking responsibility for it. Usually they are forever in denial or admit it, but claim it's the victim's fault for making them act like that. That alone is a pretty good sign, so I hope he continues to improve, and I am so happy for you. Okay, but is he at all remorseful about that, or just admitting to it? OP replies, he was remorseful and sees that's why his kids aren't that close to him, hence why he has started working on it. Parents make mistakes, some bigger than others, as is the case here, and it is so refreshing to hear that he listened to you and is working on changing. Granted a bit too late for you, but hopefully he will calm down his monitoring for your younger siblings. What a good update. Glad that you worked things out. I, 32 male, partially own a local pharmacy. Most of our patients are old folks, and a lot of them have the I'm old and I can do what I want mentality. As such, dealing with them can be quite challenging at times. I do my best to keep them in check, and I do ban the truly intolerable patients, but if I kicked out every cranky old person that came in, we'd be out of business in a week. Last week, one of our clients came in on a really busy day and started getting nasty with one of our techs, 20 female. I offered to step in for her because I know this dude's a dick, but she said she would handle it. 5 minutes later, she stomped back in and shouted, "F this, I'm out," grabbed her stuff and marched out the door. I ran after her and tried to calm her down, but she was having none of it. She said she was tired of dealing with jerks and giving them a pass just because they're old. I told her I understood her frustration, to take a 30-minute break, that I would deal with jerk, and then come back to work. She refused. I said if she wanted to take the day to really think before she made a decision while angry, I would give it to her. She said no, and she walked off. I was mad, but I understood. Because we were now down a tech, we all had to stay an extra 3 hours after close just to catch up. Well, 3 days later, she called and apologized, half crying, saying she was having a bad day, she was overly stressed. She went on about how crappy her life was going and that she couldn't afford to be out of work now. I was sympathetic. I told her that if she wants her job back, she can have it on 3 conditions. 1. Seek help for dealing with her stress. I offered to pay for therapy and stress management courses. 2. If she quits again, it's for keeps. And 3. I expected a written apology to her co-workers, not me, for walking out of them mid-shift. She accepted the 1 and 2, but refused the 3rd, saying it was humiliating. I said that she walked out on her team mid-shift and left the rest of us to pick up the slack on her next shift since I couldn't find a cover on 48 hours notice, that we were all stuck working late as a result of her sudden departure. She refused again and said she's not going to humiliate herself like that, and said that she won't come back if I'm going to make her do that. I ended the conversation with, "If that's how you feel, then so be it. I'm sorry we couldn't make it work. I'll mail you your last check in the morning." I informed my partner, and she got mad at me, saying that my request was unreasonable. She agreed that it would be humiliating to her to write an apology like she was a little kid. I countered that adults don't just rage quit their jobs mid-shift with no notice. Now we're at an impasse. She wants me to offer her her job back, sans apology, and I want to move on and find someone new. I'm questioning my decisions now. So am I the asshole for making an employee apologize in order to get her job back? I guess personally, if she really wants the job back, she will make that apology to the rest of the staff. I know I'm seeing a lot of r/anti-work going around right now in the world, and rightfully so. There's a lot going on in America that I can see like, yeah, maybe don't let yourself get mistreated by people around you. But her actions in this story warrant an apology, and if she's not willing to give it, OP doesn't have to give her her job back. I personally don't think that's something that's humiliating. I feel like you need to do that if you want to move on. Otherwise, I feel like resentment will just continue to bubble around the workplace, and that's not healthy. So I'm with OP on this one, and I'm gonna say not the asshole. Now in the comments, not the asshole. If she was so hard up for a job, she shouldn't be refusing to write an apology letter to the rest of the staff. She was in the wrong to leave as she did, and everyone else suffered for it. They deserve an apology. Totally agree. It can be so hard dealing with grumpy customers, but walking out in the middle of a shift is inappropriate. She was given so many opportunities, chances to breathe and walk away. She chose not to take them, and her actions made her life for her co-workers incredibly difficult. An apology is the least thing that she can do. Not the asshole. You were maybe one of the coolest bosses ever from this story. Do you have any idea how many people would have handled the situation that gracefully in the moment, accepted the person back after walking out on everyone and freaking out, and offer to pay for their mental health services? Not many. The written apology is a little embarrassing, but you're right. Her co-workers deserve it, and she deserves to be held accountable for her actions, which wouldn't truly be happening unless that or something similar was required. OP even offered to take over with a difficult customer before it all kicked off. I will always handball a difficult customer to a manager. They get paid more to deal with those problems. If the employee was younger, like around 20s, she probably overestimated her capacity for dealing with a recalcitrant older person. Not a word that you hear every day. That's a very weird, I've never seen that before. No shame on her for that, but it should be a learning experience about not being afraid to take help when it's offered. Definitely everyone sucks here, her for obvious reasons, but for you, 1. On the day of her meltdown, you literally offered her the rest of the day off, which effectively resulted in the same short staffing. 2. When your employees have emergencies or sick days, do they also have to write formal apologies to the rest of the crew? It's infantilizing and idiosyncratic. And OP replies to it, functionally the same but contextually different. If she was sick or needed a mental health break, obviously the expectation is far different. I wouldn't dream of punishing someone for needing a mental health break, especially after dealing with that particular douche. But to just flat out quit without a 2-week notice, knowing that she had this shift and 6 more in the coming weeks, was not cool. And they reply to that, right, but you're kind of proving that everyone sucks here point. The apology letter is being used as a punishment rather than a sincere gesture for your staff. You are the owner. If you feel your staff are being wronged, the sincere gesture should come from you, preferably in the form of Target gift cards. ETA, PS, I also think that you should not hire her back. And OP replies to that, they both got overtime pay and dinner for staying late. To paraphrase Rick Sanchez, I pay for things with money, like what every other person in the world wants. Lol. And back up to that post, there is an edit. Thanks to everyone for the responses. I've gotten some great feedback in here, and I will definitely show the thread to my partner and see what she says. If anyone cares, I'll post an update later on. Just to respond to a few common points. 1. I do not, repeat, do not, allow patients to get verbally abusive, insulting, threatening, degrading their character. Anyone who goes down that road gets shown the door quickly. Rudeness is on a gradient, and unfortunately if you work in customer service, you deal with rude people. My techs know that I have their back if they need it, so if someone goes too far, I do step in. If I kicked out everyone who was ever rude or demanding, I would close my doors in a week. 2. When I suggested a written apology, I meant her giving a letter or writing a text to the other tech and pharmacist on staff and giving it to them privately. Not like, write it up and post it in the office or read it aloud for everyone. 3. My partner and I trust each other. We have known each other for years and have been working together since 2012 in some capacity. Even when we disagree, we have enough trust in the other that neither of us would take a major decision independently, and that day-to-day management is the responsibility of whoever is in the office at the time. She and I share very similar philosophies when it comes to employee management. We come into conflict at times, but we resolve it fairly amicably. I was leaning more on the side of a written apology, but a lot of people suggested a verbal one might be sufficient, and I'm inclined to think that this might be the better course of action. We'll see what happens after I talk to my partner. And now to that update. Hi all. Since the post got surprisingly popular, I wanted to give an update. I showed the post to my partner, and we had a longer discussion about the situation. I convinced her that a verbal apology was at least needed. We called a staff meeting with the rest of our team and got their take on the situation and did a general wellness check for everyone. The quitting situation. The two who were on shift that night said that they weren't so much bothered that they had to work on their own / work late, as much as just her storming out like that. I asked them if they would be okay with her coming back to work with them and what their expectations were. The general response was that they'd be fine with it. I told them that I had offered her to come back on the condition that she give a written apology to them. One said that would be appreciated, the other said that it was unnecessary. We agreed that a private verbal apology was a reasonable solution to it, and that if that happened, there would be no bad feelings. The wellness check? I asked how they were handling patients and whether or not they were feeling abused or mistreated by them or us. It was pretty unanimous that my gut feeling was correct. They were mostly fine with it, that the few real jerks we had were easy for them to ignore, and that they know the community they grew up in and work in and how to deal with them. I reminded them that while I appreciated their tenacity, it wasn't an excuse for patients being nasty to them, and that if at any point they feel like the patients are getting too rude or speaking out of line, to not hesitate to pull me or my partner in to either handle them or else discipline them. No punishment, no judgment. I told them that we want to make sure that they're kept as happy as possible, because the happier they are, the better it is for everyone. After the staff meeting, my partner and I called our former tech together, as we both agreed that it was possible that she misunderstood my request as well. She was good at her job, it just made more sense to bring her back than to try to train someone new. We asked her if she would be interested in coming back, that the offer of paid therapy was still on the table, and that her apology did not need to be written, but could be given verbally and privately. She agreed to come back. As it turns out, she in fact did think that I meant for her to write the apology and post it on our workboard or read it aloud. I apologized for not being clearer, and told her that I would never humiliate one of my employees like that, and that I asked for the apology to keep the mutual trust. She's starting next week and looking for a therapist as well. So, happy endings overall. Now in the comments, thank you for the update. I was hoping this would all work out for you guys. Good workers can be so hard to come by, and it's wonderful that you went to such great lengths to keep someone you value. I wish I had you for a boss. I've never liked dealing with bosses, but OP sounds like someone I would enjoy working for. Thank you for the update, and I'm happy this worked out well for everyone. This was top-notch communication from start to finish. Miscommunication happens, like asking for a written letter and your staff member interpreting the request as a written letter that would be posted or read aloud, which was solved by more good communication. The world would be a better place if we all communicated better with each other. The world would also be a better place if all bosses and managers were as empathetic, kind, and good at communicating as you and your partner. Alright, and with that done, we're on to our next post, titled, Am I the asshole for paying for one daughter's extras but not the others? My husband, 50 male, and I, 48 female, have twin daughters, 17 female, named Kate and Amy. Both of our daughters do very well academically. They have their full license and occasionally use one of our cars. We are fortunate to be doing well financially. Now, the issue is, our parenting philosophy for the girls is that we will obviously support them financially while they are still in high school and living at home, and we will pay for their extracurriculars. But they are both old enough to have after-school jobs and pay for what we call their extras. Amy has always been very passionate about sports. She currently swims competitively and trains 5 days a week, sometimes 2 times a day. We pay for her club fees, equipment, travel expenses to meets, etc., and are happy to do so. Now that she's old enough, Amy drives herself and one of her teammates to their morning 4:30 a.m. practice, and my husband and I pay half the gas. The other girl's parents pay for her share. Between school and practice, Amy does not have time for a part-time job, but she saves birthday and Christmas money and babysits occasionally to pay for extras and go out for lunch with friends. Kate has never been interested in sports, and this is totally fine with us. Kate is very interested in clothes, hair, makeup, etc. Amy is not at all. Again, as long as she isn't neglecting school, we have no problem with this. However, we have told Kate that she will need to find a job to pay for the makeup that she wants, her hair, her nails, the extra clothes that she wants. The girls wear uniforms to school, we buy their regular clothes, but will not buy multiple new outfits each month. Her gas, her daily Starbucks habit. I will pay for the girls to get haircuts, but I will not pay $300 for her to get a full head of highlights. I will buy them drugstore shampoo, but not the $60 salon brand. Or salon, as you Americans like to call it. Weirdos. I don't know why a 17-year-old needs a night serum, but she will need to buy the expensive skincare products that she feels she needs. We will buy the girls their phones and pay for their plans, but we will not buy the latest model of iPhone the second it comes out. This has led to many recent bouts of screaming and accusations of assholery directed at us from Kate. She has accused my husband and I of favoritism because we pay for Amy's swimming extras, but not her extras. She sees her friends' parents paying for everything and thinks that we should as well because we can. She also thinks that we should be spending the same amount on both of the girls every month. I've told her that if she decided she wanted to do an actual extracurricular activity, like an art class, a fashion-related class, etc., I'm happy to pay for it, but otherwise she is responsible for paying for her extras. My sister thinks that since we can afford to pay for all of these things, we should, but our philosophy is that we want them to learn to be financially responsible and save for things they want. I feel guilty because I want them to feel like distinct but equally loved individuals. Am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. We might be the assholes here because we are paying for one daughter's passions but not the other's. My sister thinks we're investing in one daughter and not the other. I know that there's only so many words you can put into one post, but yeah, as some of these comments down below have said, as long as the same rules apply for buying beauty products in this scenario for the girls, then I don't see a problem with this parenting strategy. This seems to be a case of envy from the other daughter of all her friends getting better quote-unquote stuff than her, which if I were to put myself in that space, yeah, I can understand where she's coming from. I remember being so embarrassed back in preschool when people would get the top-of-the-range transforming Hot Wheel cars, like when Transformers was new. And I myself was like, God damn it, I want Transformers Hot Wheels cars too. But my parents were too poor to get it at the time. So I got these random dollar store knockoffs, and it was very much upsetting. I was laughed at for having dollar store knockoffs. I imagine the same situation applies here, that she just feels less than these other people she's surrounded by because she's got an image to maintain. Understandable, but no excuse to get more money if the parents won't condone it or can't afford it. My judgment is not the asshole. Now in the comments, not the asshole. I'm assuming the buy your own beauty products rule applies to both girls, in which case it's perfectly fair. This isn't about how much money you spend on each child, but how much you invest in their education and personal development. Highlights and expensive shampoo don't fall into that category. Classes in fashion or art, or even hairstyling and makeup, probably do fall into that category, and Kate should take you up on your offer to pay for those. Quote, she has accused my husband and I of favoritism because we pay for Amy's swimming extras but not her extras. It might be a little clearer for Kate if you stop using the word extras in addition to extracurriculars, since she seems confused about the difference. And OP replies, the same rules apply to Amy, re-clothes and beauty products / treatments, but she doesn't wear makeup and more or less lives in sweatpants when she isn't at school or practice. She buys her own games for her Switch, a Christmas gift she asked for that Kate does not use. In general, not the asshole, but as a former sport parent, not swimming, but I was a D1 swimmer back in the day, you are leaving out a lot. You say Amy doesn't care about clothes, etc., and will wear sweats, but swimming requires caps, goggles, expensive, like $500 suits, and I don't know what level she's at, but bags and coats around the pool. If you don't balance it out somewhat for Kate, it is not fair. My sporty daughter got less fashionable clothes than her sister, and when she complained, I just said, cleats, etc. I disagree that Kate should be comped dollar for dollar though. It is very likely that Amy could get an athletic scholarship, and then you'll be spending more money on Kate. Different children, different interests, different amounts spent at different times in their lives. You're the asshole. This is blatant favoritism, and you have less than a year to fix it before she moves out to college full of resentment and may not speak to you or her sister again. Quote, they are both old enough to have after-school jobs and pay for their extras. That's the whole point. This isn't happening. You are paying for everything for one twin and nothing for the other. You justify it by attempting to differentiate between extras and extracurriculars, while in the comments, admitting that there are no extras for the swimmer, but saying everything for the makeup lover is extras. This is BS. Extras and extracurricular activities are part of the same thing as they are all extra to school. One girl is given everything while the other one gets nothing. Simply because you do not value what one does, but you do value the other because of some toxically masculine, I say this as a man, sexist idea that sports matter more than fashion, even though both led to creative self-expression and identity discovery and careers. I think you should get therapy and look at why you feel this way. Were your parents of the same belief with you and your siblings, so now you perpetuate the same hurtful stereotypes? If she can't work a job and do sport, then either she has to cut back on the swimming so she can afford to pay for everything, or do as suggested in the comments and give them both a budget each month, and it's up to them to find a way to afford anything extra that they want, but the budget won't stretch too. This is equal and fair, and teaches fiscal responsibility through budgeting and having to save for large purchases/expenditures. You only have a short while to fix things with the child that you have snubbed, and as stated in other comments, it could have far-reaching effects into her and your future if you don't. Stop getting defensive and shooting down all given solutions just because you can't admit that you were wrong. You have to fix this, and good luck. Alright, and now on to the update. After reading through the comments here, my husband and I sat down and had a chat about this last weekend. We decided that we will cover the cost of one of their luxury items, since many seem to conflate extras and extracurriculars up to $50 each month. They are obviously allowed to save and roll over this $50 to the next month, e.g., if there is an item or service worth $150 or $150 they want, then they will have to plan accordingly. We will also cover gas within a reasonable amount. We sat down with each daughter separately to discuss this, and also to re-emphasize the importance of learning how to budget and prioritize non-essential purchases. We reminded them that they will be required to find a job once they finish high school if they are not enrolled in a degree/diploma program or apprenticeship. In our talk with Kate, we explained to her why we were so emphatic about extracurriculars and told her that if she was able to demonstrate a legitimate commitment to learning more about makeup and/or fashion, either by taking classes or getting a related part-time job, applying for internships, or some other means of her choosing, then we would be willing to invest more into this as a hobby of hers. We also mentioned this would be a smart idea if she was considering this as a career path. She reiterated that she does not want to take a makeup/fashion class or get a job at the moment. Oddly enough, she did say that she'd like to take a cooking class, which she has not expressed interest in the past. We have found a weekend course that she is excited to enroll in the city in September. 4 hours every Sunday for 1 month. Based on many of the comments, I've decided to take a more active interest in Kate's interests by talking to her more about them and participating in them with her when I can. We also booked a mani-pedi together this weekend, which I'm happy to do sporadically, but I don't want it to be expected. Amy is not interested. Some commenters suggested that it's unfair not to spend the exact dollar amount on each daughter, which I disagree with wholeheartedly. With that said, the cost of this cooking course is equal to roughly 2 months of Amy's club fees and miscellaneous swimming costs. If Kate decides to enroll in another course after this, we will happily pay for it, and we are happy to buy her books, tools, etc. if she is interested in pursuing this. Regardless of whether or not either daughter continues in their chosen activity, we will not be providing more than $50 a month for luxury items. To those of you suggesting it's abusive to not pay for your teenage daughter's eyelash extensions or video games, I'm not sure what to say, other than good luck raising children who are not a blight of privilege on society. And now in the comments, well said. Most sensible thing that I've read all day. I was told in an Am I the Arsehole post that it's child abuse if I allowed my daughter to dye her hair blue and then didn't buy her special shampoo for it. Not the arsehole. Two separated things. 1. Luxury items money, and 2. Money spent on activities related to future professional career/useful hobbies. My own father has always been the same, and I think he was right all along. Ask him for $50 to buy a game, and he'll probably say no. But ask him to pay $5,000 for a good professional course related to education, and he will say okay in a heartbeat. There is a difference between equality and equity, and in my opinion, we should enforce equity, most of the time, into educating our children. However, I think you shouldn't lie to either, and instead, sit both down and be completely honest. Am I the arsehole for threatening my sister, who's also my kid's biological mother, with a restraining order? I am 32 female, married to my husband 35 male, and I have a younger sister who is now 29 female. My sister got pregnant when she was 18. It was an accidental pregnancy, and she wanted to terminate it, but instead chose to keep it and give it away for adoption. Before she gave birth, I considered adopting the kid and made sure my sister would be okay with it, and she was extremely happy. She gave birth and we did all the legal paperwork to adopt the kid. The kid would still meet my sister, but as her aunt. It is a girl. The kid is now turning 11, and all those years we've never had issues with our family dynamic. My sister also expressed that she's not fit to be a mom and has been open about staying child-free. She has been a great aunt to my daughter, and we all had a healthy family relationship. I also found out 6 months ago that I'm pregnant with my own biological kid. I always wanted to be a mom, and that's why I adopted my daughter, and now I'm also pregnant. My husband and I are more than excited that our family is growing, and we'll be able to give our daughter a sibling. Since I got pregnant, my sister's stance has changed. She's tried to spend more time with my daughter, and also introduced her new boyfriend to my daughter, which is something she's not done with any other boyfriend of hers. She has been dating that guy for less than a year. I don't want to get into much details, so I'm going to get straight to the point. My sister claims now that I'm expecting my own biological kid, she wants her daughter back. I was shocked to say the least, and I told her that it's not going to happen. The kid is legally adopted by me and my husband, and she's grown up with me as her mother. She claims I stole her kid by taking advantage of her young age when she got pregnant, and I reminded her that giving up the kid for adoption was her own choice. She wants the kid back and demands to act like a mother. She also told the truth to her boyfriend and claims that we manipulated her into giving up the kid, which was not the case at all. Her boyfriend is willing to help her in legal battles to get the kid back. She also threatened to tell the kid the truth unless we do as she says. Legally, there is nothing she can do, but I don't want my kid to be traumatized by revealing the truth, especially in that way. My husband and I threatened a restraining order, and my parents basically called me the arsehole for threatening a restraining order against my own sister, and said that I should sit down and listen to what she has to say, because she is my sister after all. My husband and I are not willing to back down, as protecting our kid and family is our first priority. My parents say my sister should have equal rights to her kid, like we have, and we should compromise. Am I the arsehole? Now in the comments, not the arsehole. Restraining order sounds good to me. Tell your daughter the truth now to avoid it being revealed in an unpleasant way. Absolutely this. I knew a woman whose husband was not the bio-dad of their oldest, but they never told her. When they split, Mum threatened constantly to tell her. Well, she did, when she and 13-year-old daughter were arguing. She has never recovered from the trauma. We used to tell him to sit her down and tell her in a positive way, but he didn't, and now daughter hates them both. Not the arsehole. But it seems that you're going to have to tell your daughter that her favorite aunt is actually her biological mother sooner than you had planned. It's much better if you and your husband tell her than if your sister does so, because it allows you to preempt her lie. Also, it removes her blackmailing you through that threat of telling her. Best. And OP replies, "That's a good idea, although we're gonna have to work on how we're going to tell her. Ask a child therapist with experience in this field and have them there when you tell her." Not the asshole. You are that child's mother in every respect other than biologically. Your sister and parents are way out of line. You need to tell your daughter the truth. Do it in your own way and do it as soon as possible. Your daughter deserves to know. But aside from that, it will be far less upsetting coming from you, her parents, than if your sister blurts it out. It also takes away that threat from your sister. Sadly, if your sister doesn't back down, you might need to ban her from contacting your family until she settles down. If she gets agitated enough, she could do something dangerous like attempted kidnapping or something. It sounds like your sister is having a mental health crisis or similar. And OP replies, "I'll follow the advice and tell my daughter the truth. I actually thought about that as well. I'd rather be the one to reveal the truth to my kid than have my sister tell her as a way to get back at me." And our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend to leave the house because she is not cooking?" So I have been with her for 3 years. Over the past 2 days, she has changed a lot. I work, she is a stay-at-home W, and I know it's stupid, but she was very good at it over the last year. She did all the chores and cooked amazing food, so I was fine with it. I make enough and have inheritance for the both of us anyways. Now Friday, I come home to my dirty clothes on the couch, no food for me, as she cooked and ate herself, and I was surprised at this. I asked her what was all this, and she said she was sick of babying me. I asked her what she meant, and she talked to her friend who talked sense into her. She told my girlfriend that she was raising a man-child, and that she was becoming a replacement of my mother to me. Since she does everything, like all the household stuff, the cooking, cleaning, laundry, etc., and I hardly know how to do that. Both completely true. Thank you for the honesty, OP. That I was just being a leech and using her as a maid. I was shocked that she believed all this crap, and we had a huge fight. The next morning, nothing changed. We kept fighting, and Saturday evening, I had enough of this. I told her that she would have 10 days to leave the apartment and find herself a place. I told her I wouldn't be her father anymore by paying for everything, and she would have to make arrangements if she was going to continue behaving that way. We fought and she left to her friend's place. Some friends told me that I might have been doing a bit too much by kicking her out. Am I the asshole for this? Edit, she gets fun money and the same amount as me. She takes 3 hours because I said that if she was a stay-at-home W, woman, mother, worker, who knows? I wanted really good food. Oh man, come on. The only request that I had was the really good food. So it takes her some time to prepare it. The amount of time she takes changes from the food that she makes, and she has an overall time of chores for 3/4 hours is what I meant, not just cooking for 3 hours. I do take care of her when she is sick. I don't have to do the cleaning because she does it once every 4 days, and she gets fine by then, whatever that means. And it was a heated argument. I gave her 10 days to leave, she chose to leave today. Edit, she threw the clothes on the couch, I do not leave them there. Now in the comments, not the asshole. You pay the bills and she does the household stuff. If she doesn't contribute, she doesn't need to live in the place that you pay for. Why does she think she gets a free pass in life? And OP replies, exactly what I was saying. Just to be clear, if she went and got a job, you would then be perfectly okay doing half the chores and cooking. Sounds like you are well off, which means expecting her to pay half is unreasonable unless you are currently living well under your means. With such income disparity, it is better to agree that efforts are equal or split by percentage of total income each brings in a month. I personally never had to get more pedantic than any job means effort. But if you need value, then split by percentage. If your job and interest is bringing in 95% of the income after taxes, then you pay 95% of all the bills. That 5% will still add up for her if living at any sort of high standard, and you would still be morally responsible for half the housework and cooking. And also, please remember that hired help is a thing before treating your significant other as one at this point. Not the asshole. You had an arrangement and she broke it. Everybody needs to pull their weight in a household. Was she expecting to do nothing at all? I had a similar situation where a friend of an ex butted herself in the relationship this way, big time. I hope their friendship is worth it. I am sorry for your breakup. You also need to learn how to do your own chores. OP can use the money saved to hire a housekeeper to come once a week if he doesn't have time. Not the asshole. If she's staying at home all day and not working, then yeah, I would have made her leave too. Right? I'm not understanding the everyone sucks here and you're the asshole judgments. She sounds spoiled and entitled. If he's making all the money and paying all the bills, it is completely fair to expect her to do the housework. And my blessed Markee community, you really are blessed on this day. OP gave us an update within 14 hours of posting this. Update. She came home, she cried, she apologized, and I said it back too, and hugged me. She told me she loved me. She said she didn't know what came into her. Maybe you. She said she acted like a and she said she would cut off the friend, toxic in many ways. I never really liked her in the first place, and she asked me to forgive her. She had gone to another friend's place who lived closer to us, not the one in the OP. She says she was just tired of being at home doing nothing. We'll talk about it later, and we might be getting a pet. I said it was okay and that I was one too. And she kept crying and is now asleep hugging me. Thank you for the comments in the DMs. I couldn't have read most of it, but I appreciate it a lot.